Well,
after the original series ended, Doctor Who's never really gone away. There's been audio dramas produced by Big Finish, books which run into their hundreds, stage plays, radio dramas, one-off specials, documentaries, webcasts, and of course websites which have kept the flame alive. Gary Russell is one such fan who went that extra bit further, and he told me how he carried the torch for the Doctor.
Quite a few years ago, myself, Nicholas Briggs, and John Ainsworth, and people like Jim Mortimer and Andy Lane and lots of Doctor Who people, we used to do amateur audio drama. In the same way that lots of people do amateur magazines and things, we decided that was boring. So we would do amateur science fiction plays. It sort of turned into Doctor Who, really, along the way, which is all terribly naughty and probably broke every copyright law under the sun. But it gave us a very good grounding in what you can and can't do with audio. It had been a hobby for most of us. We all loved sort of radio drama growing up as kids, which I think probably was quite unusual. But that's kind of what brought us together. And we did that for a few years in the 80s, and then it all came to a halt, as these things do. And then in the mid-90s, when the TV movie happened with Paul McGann, myself and Nick said, gosh, wouldn't it be fun to do it all again, and this time do it properly? So we went to the BBC, and we said, how about giving us an exciting license to make Doctor Who audio drama? And they looked at us and said, no, thank you, goodbye. So we went off and we did some other stuff. We got a license from another company to do another character called Bernie Summerfield. And we did a couple of those, and somebody at the BBC heard them and thought, gosh, these are actually quite good. And so they came back to us and said, how would you like to have the license to do Doctor Who? And we thought, didn't we ask you that a couple of years ago? But of course we jumped at it. By this time, Jason Hay-Gallery was on board, having brought Big Finish with him. And so we all sort of jumped at it. And before we knew where we were making Doctor Who on audio for us, but licensed by the BBC.
Gary Russell has subscribed to my view of what my Doctor should have been like and could have been like, and has commissioned scripts that have reflected that. So I have been able to show my Doctor developing in ways that I am quite grateful for. Yeah, and I think some of the stories I've been asked to do have been probably better written than some of the stories I actually did do in Vision.
If you were even a semi-competent con man, you'd realise that the TARDIS, my TARDIS, has been in the shape of a police box for centuries.
Everybody knows that. We've done our research. That is a police box.
No, it isn't. That's it's a portaloo.
Eh?
Listen, you. We've seen the hollow records. You can't catch us out. Policemen are always hanging around these things.
You really are an imbecile, aren't you?
Listen! Do I have to get nasty?
I wouldn't advise it. I'm quite capable of defending myself.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But how easy was it to get 4 old Doctor Who actors to recreate a role they hadn't performed in 20 years?
The actors were all terribly positive about it.
Gary Russell, producer and director of Big Finish Audios.
Over the years, myself and Nick have both been involved in Doctor Who fandom, and at conventions and things we've done on stage interviewing, so we've got to know them very well. More so Sylvester and Colin than Peter, actually. And so when we first asked them, they knew who we were. We weren't sort of voices and names out of the blue. We went, oh, well, look, it's us, and we've just got this fantastic opportunity, and do you want to join in? And Sylvester and Colin were immediately up for it. And I think Peter knew of us, but probably couldn't place us exactly. And I think it was a case of he spoke to Colin and Sylvester and they said, no, these guys are very good and they know what they're doing and they won't make us look foolish. And so Peter was on board as well. And then a couple of years later, Paul McGann joined us.
And they managed to get some top writers for the scripts too. It's notable the number of Big Finish writers in the new series. Rob Shearman, who wrote last year's Dalek, Paul Cornell, who wrote last year's Father's Day, and Mark Gatiss, who wrote The Unquiet Dead. They also managed to frequently get a large number of notable writers. One of those is Nev Fountain, and he's part of the Dead Ringers writing team. He explained how he makes the leap from comedy to Who.
Doctor Who's are quite humorous. I think comedy and Doctor Who are very similar in many ways because they both depend on structure. Good comedy always depends on a good plot and a good structure to write it. Even a sketch relies on structure, and Doctor Who is absolutely dependent on structure.
I am the Doctor, the guardian of time and space, representative of the Time Lords of Gallifrey, committed to bring order to the universe, wherever the web of time is threatened by the Master. I will confront him and defend the space-time continuum in the sacred name of Rassilon. If the Eye of Harmony is plunged into the vortex,
Yeah,
then
thank you very much, Tom. Do you think you could just stick to the script, though?
Oh, very well. New sparkle kills 100% of germs right under the rim.
I mean, in many ways, if you strip it down, if you take the adventure idea out of it, it's just basically a very long thriller. You know, it's an adventure story, but the word adventure is meaningless. What you essentially have in a good Doctor Who is thrillers, or a subset of that which is murder mysteries, or a subset of that which is, you know, horror. So they both rely very much on structure, and a lot of Stephen Moffat, for example, says, you know, the secret of Doctor Who is when it's not scary, it's funny, and when it's not funny, it's scary. I mean, there's some marvellous wit and style. All my favourite Doctor Who's.
David Tennant took over the role from Christopher Eccleston last July, and he began filming on the Christmas special. But filming Christmas in July?
Christmas in July worked remarkably well, actually. We were filming, a lot of the outdoor stuff was on a council estate in London, so it was, you know, fairly kind of non-specific anyway. We got away with that. And actually, we had the worst weather we've had for the whole shoot in July. It bucketed on us, and we got very far behind. It was our first week of shooting. I think what's impressive when you see the episode, you know, months after you filmed it, is it goes away to the mill and it comes back with all this extraordinary stuff going on. The people standing on the edges of the buildings, and the size of the Sycorax ship, and the spinning Christmas tree, and all this stuff that you have to imagine in your mind's eye when you're shooting it. It's all realised even more extraordinarily than your imagination could possibly expect. I'm having enormous fun. I'm having a great time. You know, the scripts keep coming, and they keep being each one better than the one before. It's a fantastic job.
And now it's time for Series 2 of brand new Doctor Who, which has still managed to capture the imagination with regular viewing figures of 8 million people or more. Time will tell how long it remains on the screen, but with Series 3 beginning filming this July and a whole host of Who stuff appearing on the shelves for Christmas, well, is that the end?
That's the end. Or is it? No, it isn't.